Have you ever looked around and felt like you've already lived this? Like you've played this game before, and now you're just remembering the rules? Maybe it hits you in quiet moments, sitting in traffic, making coffee, looking into someone's eyes and thinking, I've been here before, not just in a dream, not just in a flashback, but in a way that your soul recognizes, even if your mind can't explain. You go through the motions, smiling, achieving, loving, losing. You've lived fully, deeply, even beautifully. But still, something inside feels like it's watching, like a part of you is gently observing it all, not quite inside it, but not separate either. It's like performing a role in a play you've rehearsed for lifetimes. You know the lines, you know the rhythm. You're not faking it. But you also know you are more than this character, and that knowing is growing. So here's the question no one ever taught you to ask. What if reincarnation isn't a trap? What if it's a school, and you're about to graduate? What if all these strange feelings, the déjà vu, the detachment, the deep love mixed with deeper distance, aren't signs that you're lost, but signs that you're remembering? This isn't about being above anyone. This isn't about being special. This is about recognition, about feeling the veil thinning between who you thought you were and who you truly are. Over the next few minutes, we're going to explore 9 powerful signs that your soul may be completing its final human cycle. And no, it won't feel dramatic, it won't be loud. It will feel like a soft click, like something inside you finally fitting into place. And if even one part of this speaks to you, don't scroll away. Drop a comment below with something you're feeling right now, anything that moved you, opened something, reminded you. It's not just for us, it's for you. To anchor your own awakening, share this video with someone you love. And make sure to subscribe, because each week we bring messages like this, rooted in wisdom, story, and remembrance. You're not just watching a video, you're remembering your place in something far greater. Let's begin. For those of us raised in a world that worships logic and proof, the idea of reincarnation can sound too mystical to trust. But what if science, real science, was pointing us in the same direction? Meet Dr. David Bohm, one of the most brilliant quantum physicists of the 20th century. He wasn't just a scientist. He was a visionary who believed that reality, as we perceive it, is only a shadow of something much deeper. Bohm proposed a theory called the implicate order, a hidden layer of reality, where everything is connected beyond space and time. According to him, what we see and touch, our bodies, the earth, the stars, are just the explicate order, the unfolded version of a far more unified, non-local whole. In this deeper realm, there is no separation, no past, no future. Just a continuous field of flowing information, where every part contains the whole, and time doesn't move forward, but folds inward like layers of light. Now pause for a second. What does this mean for you? It means that your sense of déjà vu might not be imagination. It means that your intuitive memories of places you've never been or things you've never learned might not be fantasy. They might be fragments from other folds in this greater field. It means you're not just progressing through lifetimes in a straight line. You may be remembering all of them at once, from a deeper vantage point. Bohm didn't use spiritual language, but his work gave physics a way to speak to the soul. It offered a model where awakening isn't climbing up a ladder. It's stepping back far enough to see that the ladder was always part of you. And if you've begun to sense this, if you feel like you're tuning into something that's always been there, just beyond the veil, you're not imagining it. You're experiencing a shift in awareness that aligns with the deepest structure of reality itself. This isn't fantasy. It's physics. And it may be the first real sign that you're ready to leave the classroom behind. You wake up, make your coffee, drive to work, pay the bills. You laugh when people laugh, you cry when life hurts, you do all the human things. Beautiful, messy, ordinary things. But deep inside, there's a strange distance, a quiet hum that says, this isn't really home. It's not depression. It's not loneliness. It's something else. Like you're walking through a museum of experiences, touching, tasting, playing along, yet never fully attaching. You might find yourself staring out a window, watching people pass by and thinking, why does this all feel familiar but not mine? You're not disconnected from life. In fact, you may be fully present, but you carry a soft awareness that you're just visiting this place. Like an actor in a play who remembers the script but no longer feels the role in his bones. This is often the first sign your soul is nearing the end of its human cycles. According to physicist David Bohm, what we see as separate identities are actually expressions of a deeper unified field. He described our visible world as a projection from a hidden order, where everything is connected as flowing patterns of energy. The sense of being apart from the world is not disconnection. It's the beginning of perceiving this deeper truth. You are not the role. You are the awareness behind it. As this realization deepens, your grip on identity softens. You start noticing that the world operates like a simulation, a temporary experience your consciousness has stepped into, and rather than resist it, you observe. You become the compassionate witness, still human, still loving, hurting, laughing, but from a vantage point that stretches far beyond this life. If you've felt this, if you've ever looked in the mirror and thought, I know this face, but it's not the whole story, then perhaps you're not losing your place in the world. Perhaps you're finally remembering you were never only here to begin with. This isn't alienation. It's recognition, and it may be your soul's first whisper that the journey is nearly complete. It hits you in the middle of a conversation. Someone says a phrase, tilts their head just so, and your breath catches. You've been here before, but it's not just a vague sensation. It's vivid. You remember the exact feeling in the air, the color of the light, even what's about to be said next. It's as if a hidden memory cracked open, just for a second. Most people shrug these moments off. Just your brain misfiring, they say. But you know better. Because for you, déjà vu isn't occasional. It's frequent, detailed, and loaded with meaning. Sometimes it's a dream playing out in real life. Other times it's a deep body knowing, like your cells recognize a moment your mind can't explain. What if these are not glitches, but glimpses? According to David Bohm, time is not a straight line. He proposed that reality unfolds from a deeper order, where past, present, and future all exist simultaneously, layered within a single cosmic field. What you perceive as déjà vu may actually be your consciousness brushing up against one of these inner layers, a version of you in a different fold of reality, living a parallel moment. For a split second, the veil lifts, and you remember, this isn't fantasy. It's a phenomenon many physicists are just beginning to grasp. The idea that our consciousness may not be confined to one timeline, one identity, or one life so as if your soul is completing its final incarnation, it may be shedding the illusion of linear time altogether. Your awareness becomes more fluid, less trapped in this life, and more attuned to the vast field of all your lives. So if you've ever had a déjà vu so powerful it made you pause, if you've known a place you've never been or felt, a conversation unfold before it happened, don't dismiss it. Don't rationalize it away. It might not be memory at all. It might be presence, your soul briefly seeing itself from another angle, another now. And maybe that's not just a sign. Maybe it's a signal. You're not just remembering. You're remembering that you remember. You've thought about death, not in fear, not in despair, but with a strange kind of calm, like someone remembering a place they once called home. It's not that you're rushing toward it. You're not reckless. You don't wish for endings. But something deep within you knows death is not the end. It's just a door. And you've walked through it before. Others around you might shrink at the thought, clinging to youth, to health, to control. But for you, the concept of death feels soft, not dark, not tragic, just familiar. You've sensed it in quiet moments. A breeze across your face, the hush of night, the moment between heartbeats. Something inside whispers, "You've done this." And maybe, just maybe, you'll do it again. Science is beginning to echo what mystics have said for centuries. In the world of quantum physics, particles don't vanish when they die. They shift. They move into new patterns of energy, still existing, just in a different form. You're not a fixed object. You're a field. A living vibration moving through space and time, never truly disappearing, only changing shape. Physicist David Bohm described reality as a continuous unfolding, where death is not a collapse, but a transition from the visible to the invisible, from the explicate order to the implicate. If your soul is nearing the end of its incarnational path, this awareness becomes more than a belief. It becomes embodied. You start to live with freedom, not from recklessness, but from release. You stop fearing the final moment because you know it's just a pause before the next expression. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you stop fearing death, you start living more fully, not driven by time, not obsessed with permanence, but grounded in presence. So if you've noticed your heart soften around the subject of mortality, if you can speak of it with peace, or sense a quiet remembering when others are terrified, then perhaps you are not preparing to die. You are simply preparing to return to the vast living field from which you never truly left. You think of someone, and your phone buzzes with their message. You speak a question out loud, and moments later, the answer shows up in a book, a song lyric, or a stranger's passing comment. You're not just having lucky guesses. You're witnessing patterns, and they're not random. At first you brushed it off. Coincidence, maybe, but it kept happening, so often, so perfectly timed, that part of you began to wonder, is something listening? Then you realized it wasn't about something. It was everything, responding to you, with you, through you. Welcome to synchronicity. It's not superstition, it's interaction. According to quantum physics, particularly the observer effect, reality doesn't fully form until it's observed. The act of noticing actually influences the outcome. In other words, consciousness isn't separate from the world, it helps shape it. Physicist David Bohm took this even further. He described reality as a flowing, interconnected whole, where thought, perception, and matter all emerge from the same underlying field. To him, the universe is not happening to you, it's unfolding through you. That's why synchronicities feel so personal, because they are. You're not being guided by a force outside yourself. You're experiencing your own field, becoming more aware, more coherent, more aligned. It's like the deeper your soul remembers its true nature, the thinner the veil becomes between intention and manifestation. You're no longer just reacting to life. You're co-creating it, and the more you trust it, the more it happens. A feedback loop of recognition, of confirmation, of gentle nods that say, yes, you're on the path. If your life feels like a trail of perfectly placed breadcrumbs, if signs seem to light up exactly when you need them most, you're not imagining it. Synchronicity is how the universe whispers. And if you're hearing those whispers more and more clearly, it may be because your soul is no longer lost in the illusion of randomness. It knows there's a pattern, because now you're part of it. You don't live in the world, you live with it. And that changes everything. You used to chase things, success, love, recognition. You used to wake up with that gnawing feeling, I need to get there. I need to become someone. I need more. But lately, something's shifted. The hunger is gone. Not because you've lost interest in life, but because you found something deeper than longing. You still care, you still dream, but your dreams rise like clouds, light, effortless, free. Not from a place of lack, but from wholeness. People might misread this. They might call you unmotivated or distant, but you know the truth. You're no longer driven by what you don't have. You're moved by what you already are. This isn't apathy, it's liberation. In quantum terms, we often think of the self as a particle, separate, incomplete, reaching. But physicist David Bohm taught that reality is wave-like, holistic. Everything we are is already enfolded within the greater whole. There is no missing piece, only the illusion of separation. And when your soul begins to dissolve that illusion, you stop chasing. Because you remember, nothing outside of you can complete you. Because you were never incomplete, your actions begin to change. You work without attachment. You create without obsession. You serve without needing applause. Desire doesn't vanish. It transforms. It stops being a fire fed by fear. It becomes a quiet flame, lit by presence, and from that space, your life becomes art, not a performance, but an expression of inner truth. If you've felt this, if ambition has softened, if striving has become stillness, if the need to prove yourself has faded into the joy of simply being, then your soul may be signaling something powerful. You're no longer trying to escape the emptiness, because you've realized there is no emptiness. There's only space, and you're finally allowing yourself to be in it, fully and freely. This is what it means to be full, not heavy, but whole. You touch the table and it feels solid. You look at the sky and it seems endlessly far. You speak and the sound echoes in space. Everything looks real, fixed, physical. And yet, something in you knows. This isn't the whole picture. Lately, the world has started to shimmer. Not literally, though sometimes it feels close. But there's a subtle awareness growing in you. What you're seeing isn't the source. It's the surface. A projection, a screen. You're beginning to sense the set behind the stage, the code behind the simulation. Not with fear, but with wonder. Science has been catching up to this ancient knowing. Physicist David Bohm described the visible world as the explicate order, the unfolded result of a deeper, invisible source called the implicate order. Everything we see is just the tip of the wave. What we are exists in a deeper field of reality, unseen, yet fully real. The holographic universe theory echoes this idea. It suggests that the entire three-dimensional world is a projection from a two-dimensional boundary, like a cosmic movie projected onto the screen of your senses. And if you've begun to feel this, if walls seem thinner, time feels softer, and your body less like a cage and more like a lens, you're not going crazy. You're waking up. You're recognizing that form is just frequency, that solid is just slow vibration, and that this life is not an illusion, but a beautifully crafted interface. One designed to teach, to reveal, to reflect. As your soul nears the end of its cycle, it begins to see through the pixels. The veils drop, even if only briefly. And you understand that what you see isn't what is, but what appears to be. And strangely, that doesn't make life feel less sacred. It makes it more. Because when you realize the stage is made of light, you start treating every moment like it matters, every breath like a choice, every connection like an echo of the whole. If you've ever felt like this world was just a dream you're slowly remembering, you're not stepping away from reality. You're stepping into it for the first time with eyes wide open. One morning you look in the mirror and for a moment you forget who's staring back, not in a frightening way, more like a pause, a flicker of realization. That's not me. That's just the form I'm borrowing. You still go by your aim. You still remember your past, but more and more it all feels like a story you've been telling. One chapter in a much larger book. You are not just John. You are the awareness behind John. You are not the voice in your head. You are the one listening to it. It's subtle at first, a moment of stillness here, a gentle detachment there. Then suddenly, the boundaries blur. You begin to witness your thoughts, rather than get pulled into them. You observe your emotions, without drowning in them. And something inside you knows, I am not my story. I am the space it moves through. According to physicist David Bohm, identity as we experience it is only a temporary unfolding from a deeper source, not a fixed entity, but a process, a pattern in motion. He believed that what we call the self is part of the explicate order, visible, personal, time-bound. But beneath that is the implicate order, where awareness flows without boundary or form. Your soul, as it nears the end of its incarnational journey, begins to return to this knowing, not through effort, but through remembering, not by rejecting who you are, but by seeing who you've always been, behind the names, faces, and roles. It's not a loss of self, it's an expansion of it. You become both the wave and the ocean, both the character and the author. If you felt this, if identity feels lighter, less fixed, if your inner voice has started whispering things that sound ancient, if you've stopped saying, "This is who I am," and started asking, "What am I really?" then perhaps your soul is no longer confined to the part, it's remembering the whole. And in that remembering, there's peace, there's presence, there's freedom. You see a bird fall from a tree, and your chest tightens. You watch someone's eyes fill with tears, and somehow yours do too. You walk through a forest, and it feels like the trees are breathing with you, not just around you. This isn't sentimentality. It's not pity. It's fusion, a dissolving of lines you once thought were solid, between human and animal, between self and other, between you and everything else. Somewhere along the way, empathy stopped being a response. It became your default state. You don't just care, you feel. You don't just observe suffering, you absorb it, not as a burden, but as a kind of sacred intimacy. You've begun to sense the truth that science is only beginning to whisper, that all life, every being, every atom, is not separate but deeply entangled. According to quantum physics, particles that have interacted remain connected across vast distances, influencing each other instantly. This is called quantum entanglement. And if that's true, for particles, what about souls? Physicist David Bohm believed that consciousness itself is non-local, not bound by time or space. In his view, everything we perceive as separate is just a ripple in a single ocean of awareness. So when your heart aches for a stranger, or you cry for a dog you've never met, or you feel the pain of the earth as your own, it may be because it is your own. The illusion of individuality is fading, and what's left is not loss, but communion. You're not becoming softer, you're becoming truer, aligned with the reality that all life pulses from the same source, and from this, space morality becomes obsolete. You don't act with kindness because you should. You do it because hurting another would feel like hurting yourself. If you've felt this constant spontaneous compassion, this ache for the world that somehow makes you feel more alive than broken, then your soul may no longer be learning empathy. It may be remembering unity, and in that remembering, you become not a better human, but a clearer expression of the whole. There was a time when you were stuck. The same arguments, the same wounds, the same mistakes, replaying like a broken record. You tried therapy, you journaled, you prayed. Still, the patterns stayed, like knots in your chest that wouldn't untangle. But lately something changed, not because you forced it, not because you did the work, but because you suddenly saw it clearly, and that clarity was enough. The trigger came, and you didn't flinch. The old fear rose, and you didn't fight. And just like that, it didn't own you anymore. This is how the end of a karmic cycle often feels. Not dramatic, not loud, just done. Physicist David Bohm described reality as a continuous unfolding, where everything, thought, matter, memory, is part of a living flow. When consciousness shifts, the pattern changes, not through effort, but through resonance. Your soul, as it nears completion, no longer needs to repeat what it has already learned. The lesson dissolves into understanding, the loop opens, and you step out. Old pain no longer seduces you. Old identities no longer confine you. It's not that life becomes perfect, but your relationship with it does. You move through challenges, like water around stone. You no longer cling, no longer resist. You integrate. That's the secret. Healing, at this stage, doesn't look like fixing. It looks like freedom, and the world may not notice. There's no applause, no trophies. But you know, because what used to take you years now takes you days. What used to hurt for months now passes in minutes. You've stopped dancing with your shadows. You've turned to face the light. If you felt this quiet unraveling of everything you thought you were, if you've watched yourself walk away from patterns without needing to try anymore, then perhaps your soul is not breaking down. It's breaking through, not by force, but by readiness, by ripeness, because maybe you don't need another lifetime to heal. Maybe this was the lifetime you were meant to remember. You were never broken, only bound, and now you're free. So, what does it mean to be in your final life cycle? It doesn't mean you're better. It doesn't mean you float above the world, detached and untouchable. It means you've stopped trying to escape it. You've stopped fighting the messiness, the mystery, the motion of being human, because finally, you see it clearly, not as a prison, but as a mirror. All along, you weren't here to transcend life. You were here to embrace it fully, and in doing so, remember who you are beyond it. Physicist David Bohm spoke of wholeness, not as something to achieve, but something already present, hidden beneath layers of projection. The implicate order, as he called it, isn't far away. It's here, folded into every moment, every breath, every act of presence. You're not leaving the world. You're finally seeing it as it truly is. Not a separate thing to survive, but a living current to move with, to feel through, to co-create within. Your soul isn't seeking escape. It's seeking integration. Not a mountaintop of isolation, but a deep, grounded stillness in the center of everything, like a song that's been playing across lifetimes. Each verse a different life, a different lesson, a different voice. And now, perhaps, you're singing the final verse, not to end the music, but to bring it home. If these signs have echoed something inside you, know this. You're not closing a door. You're opening your eyes, and what waits for you has always been here. If any of these signs stirred something deep in you, don't just let it pass. Leave a trace. In the comments below, write one thing you're feeling most drawn to right now. A word, an image, a truth that resonated. It doesn't have to be profound. Just something that lets us know you're awake, you're listening, and you're walking this path too. Hit the like button if you felt seen in any part of this message. Share this video with someone you love. Someone who might be feeling this quiet shift too, but hasn't yet found the words for it. Subscribe to join us every week as we continue diving into the deeper nature of reality, consciousness, and the beauty of this human journey. You're not alone. You never were. And now, you're remembering that. We'll meet you again in the next unfolding.